Chapter 85 Justice and World Law. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 17 and 18. Thou shalt not pervert the judgments of the stranger, nor of the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge. But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee thence. Therefore, I command thee to do this thing. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 17 and 18. These two verses are concerned with a very common emphasis in the law, the prophets and the Gospels. In Deuteronomy chapter 10, verses 17 to 19, God identifies himself as one who loves the fatherless, the widows, and the aliens. He pays no attention to wealth or status. His judgment is in terms of his law word. In Exodus chapter 22, verses 21 to 24, God promises judgment against persons and nations who exploit such peoples. See also Exodus chapter 23, verse 6. Proverbs chapter 22, verse 22 states the same, as do other proverbs. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 23, Jeremiah chapter 5, verse 28, and other texts stress this also. This law is not addressed to the judges, rulers, kings, or civil powers, but to the people. Neither charity nor justice can exist in any country if they do not exist in the hearts and lives of the people. Although the civil authorities must administer justice, its beginnings are in the lives of the people. The law of God thus governs the private and public life of the people so that justice may begin with each and every man. Only then can it exist in the civil authorities. The state has no part in charity, which means that, unless the people are charitable, the society will be a cold and heartless one. Nothing in this indicates that status welfarism is to be adopted. Status welfarism is impersonal. It insists on the right to be cared for, and it propagates dependency and social disintegration. It should be apparent by now that, to all but the most prejudiced, Deuteronomy is a remarkable book. It summarizes the law of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers, and, in the process, highlights the remarkable unity of law and love, of justice and mercy. It militates against evolutionary beliefs in the primitivism of Old Testament faith and life. It centers the hopes for a society in the faith and life of its families, for the book is a series of addresses to the covenant families. Deuteronomy clearly offers a solution which fallen man rejects. The goal of nations throughout history has usually been power, and power is seen as the ability to control and manipulate other peoples. As against this dream of power, God offers the covenant life, grounded in the justice of his law. This is rejected because, openly or covertly, God is rejected. Three classes of helpless people are cited: the orphan, the widow, and the alien. In a society whose goal is power, the helpless will at least be neglected, if not exploited. If welfare is given, it is to silence guilt or protests, and welfarism divides peoples. Charity unites them because it is personal and religious. In this context, the concern is justice. Justice requires that the weak and defenseless be protected from injustice. Justice is the duty of godly kings and rulers. Psalm 72, verses 12 to 14, and of all society. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 18, chapter 27, verse 19, Exodus chapter 22 verse 22, chapter 23 verses 6 to 9, Leviticus chapter 19 verse 33, etc. Israel should remember that they were once helpless and exploited in Egypt, verse 18, and the redemption was God's work. All the redeemed of God should remember that their standing and prosperity is of God's grace, and it can be withdrawn at any time. Society cannot long exist nor flourish without justice. At the foundation of all social orders is a hope of realizing a just social order. Those social orders that neglect justice in due time undermine their own foundations. Fallen man's nature makes him very prone to injustice, and the society he creates shows the same disposition to evil. As a result, the fall of man is replicated in the societies he creates. The fall is thus a repeated act because men refuse to acknowledge what they are and where their hope lies. There's an interesting aspect to this law which goes back to the rabbis of old. The requirement that these helpless people be given justice was seen as meaning help to them in court. The premise led to what we now call the public defender, although his modern purpose has strayed somewhat. A special attention is called to the widow's raiment. It cannot be taken as a pawn or security. No man's loan to a widow gave him any ground to humiliate or degrade her. The marginal note in the Geneva Bible for this text reads, "Because the world did not least esteem these sorts of people, therefore God hath most care over them." Two words are used in contrast here, pervert and remember. It is a curious juxtaposition and an interesting one. It is not the contrast that would come to our minds. As against the perversion of justice, we are to remember our own need for justice. Justice cannot exist in the abstract. Having received it, we are to give it to others. If we have not received it, and Israel did not get justice from Egypt, all the more we should be dedicated to gaining justice for others. The ultimate and only true source of justice is God the Lord. If we reject His laws of justice, we cannot expect God to be mindful of us. This law is an aspect of God's laws of justice. In the main, three concepts of justice have governed men. First, for biblical faith, justice is God's nature and law. Justice is an expression of God's being and is therefore the inescapable standard over all things. God gives us His law as a rule to live by. Justice is thus, in essence, supernatural because a fallen, sinful world cannot be just. It expresses injustice in all its ways and, whatever its pretenses, a hostility to justice. Second, some see law and justice as the expression of nature, and they speak of natural law. This view, even in its church-related formulations, has an inherent contradiction. How can a fallen world give us a law? We can agree that there is a law over the universe, and that this law is operative within the universe, but it is God's law, not nature's. At a conference where a professor expounded on natural law as the world's and freedom's home, one man asked, "What does natural law say about adultery?" The professor dismissed the question as, quote, irrelevant, end quote. Natural law is usually invoked to evade God's law while having some transcendental reference. The specifics of natural law cannot be agreed upon. There is no given body of natural law. Third, law can be purely the expedient, temporal, and changing law of nations. It has no eternal validity, and it is pragmatic in purpose. There is no absolute good nor evil, right nor wrong. If God's law is not the overruling government over all things, then some kind of superstate must provide it. As a result, a world of statist law-making bodies soon seeks to create a fiat world law, a world court, and a world state. If there be no God with a governing law over all things, then a man-made world order must replace him. Thus, the alternative to God and his law is inevitably a humanistic law and world order